Hi, welcome to the 6502 show. In this episode, we're going to make a paddle, one of the simplest peripherals you could have, but it'll bring you a lot of fun and a lot of interesting games for the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64 that perhaps you haven't played yet. There are quite a number of paddle games available for the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64 as well. But what if you don't happen to have some original Commodore paddles? Well, the answer is this simple little schematic: a variable resistor and a momentary switch. That's all we need to build a paddle. So let's go to it. Here are the materials we're going to need. I've got some ribbon cable. I've got a variable resistor, I've got a little momentary switch. I have a project box. It may look like a soap box, but it's a project box, trust me. Okay, before we get going, I should probably put a little divot here where each hole is going to go. Help the drill a little bit, get started and in the right place. It'll be bad enough for me as it is. I do not have the steady hands that I once had as a young man. And then, lastly, our hole right here for our button. Okay. Let's go a little overkill here. In no way should anyone drill the way that is depicted in this next video segment. Instead, do what this guy's doing. He wears safety goggles, uses a drill press, he secures his materials with clamps, etc., etc. It might be a little tight, but we can always ream that out a little bit. That's not an issue. We'll go to our 1/4 inch. For our fire button. And lastly, the main event for our variable resistor. Let's see here. Yeah, might need a little bit bigger of a pilot hole there. Maybe that's pilot error on me. Ooh. Or, better yet, you know what I think I'll do? When one thinks about it, it's probably better to start here. There we go. That'll work a lot better. And voila, we are done. Finally, we'll Dremel a little slit here for our cable. That'll get her done. Okay, clean that up a bit. Oh. And a little bit of fingernail file to take some of those rough edges off. Now here's a mistake you don't want to make. Take this end that's going to go to your DB9 connector and put that through the holes. You do not want to solder this puppy together and then have no way to get the cable through the cable hole. You have to mangle your box more, and it's mangled enough as it is. Okay, the soldering iron's warmed up. I've got my little helping hand guy here. And let's put a little drop on here and get going. Remember this little drawing? See? I've got it backwards. I should have put the yellow wire on the left because this is the bottom view from the inside of the box. There we go. One down, one to go. Now I've got our little momentary switch in here. And we know what colors go where, what wires go where because of our color chart. I'm going to make a mistake. I need a color chart. Maybe I don't need quite so much tea. There we go. That'll do it. At least until we get set up for our connector to the computer, our DB9. Now I've got the DB9 female connector here. If you look very closely, you might be able to see this, I don't know. There are numbers, little tiny numbers on both ends. Let's see here, maybe if I get the light tilted just right. Well, anyway, they're there. So that'll help us put in the proper wires and pins into the proper holes. So what I'm going to do is just start with connecting these wires to these little pins. And I will use my little helpers to do that. For my hands are not what they used to be. All right, and it doesn't really matter at this point. I'll just start doing them. This little guy was cheap. So, well worth the money. Huh. How about I tip you over like a yaw? There we go. Go.
I will spare you soldering the rest of these three. Okay, finished up with that. I'm going to wash my hands because I've been handling lead solder. Alright, as you will recall, blue goes to 9, green goes to 8, yellow goes to 7, orange goes to 3. Let's check our chart one more time. Yep, that's exactly what it says. So, let's find number 9 here. It is the last one, and that is blue. In goes blue. And green goes to 8. Yellow goes to 7. This might be a little trickier than I thought. Or maybe not. And 3 is our orange. And now we just gotta get them in there. And got some tweezers to help out. Because this can be a little on the tricky side. I've also got you. Not particularly meant for this job, but... Why don't you go in there? What was that line from Billy Madison? That's your home. Don't you want to go into your home? Okay, and lastly, we've got orange into number 3. Boop. 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 And boop. Okay. Yep, I can see the ends there. Maybe not number 9 quite so well. Jam him in there a little bit better. And now, last but not least, make sure we're turned all the way left. This knob is way cool. This came off of a very old radio and probably is one of the more expensive things in this room right now other than a computer. Okay, get that pointed the right direction. Maybe pick it up just a hair. Okay. Voila! She's done. All right, our paddle is done. Let's give it a workout. I typed in a little tiny program that will read the pot register for the left joystick. 36872 would be 873 if we wanted to test the right one, if we'd built a right one. But I'm the only one who ever plays these games, so I just figured I'd build one. All right, so when we run this, I've got the knob here cranked all the way over to the left. There we go. Probably a little bit better. And let's see when we start getting some change. All right, there we go. So that's about where it's starting to become sensitive. About there, about, say, 10 o'clock. We'll roll this all the way down. There's 0. So we've got about I don't know, 190 degrees maybe of range on the knob for sensitivity. So we lose all of this. But that's still pretty darn good. Very usable. This is a little program that will put a ball up on a screen, a little red ball, and move it around left and right. And with that, shift a tone up and down to reflect the movement of the ball. And what this does is not only demonstrates the kinds of things you can do with a paddle, I mean, think Breakout and all those games, it does really show up the jitter problem. You'll hear it on the audio as well. See, even when the ball appears to be stationary, it really isn't. There's something going wrong. That crazy mystery capacitor, perhaps?
The place to find out about the paddle jitter is the Denial Wiki. Go to denial-sleeping-elephant.com and you'll learn all about it. It's an inherent problem with older VIC-20s. We don't actually know what causes the problem. The suspect is a capacitor somewhere along the line that is between the joystick port and the PIA. It hasn't been solved yet. It's been solved in software mostly. So let's take a look at that. This is further down on the page that we've just seen. Now we can use this code to augment our previous little ball experiment and see what it might do for us.
Okay, I've replaced line 20 in the little ball demo program with some of the code from the Denial Wiki, and let's see if it has much, if any, effect. Also, line 5 sets up a range of 0.1 to 0.9, so like they said, it kind of creates a low-pass filter. Let's give this a shot. Well, still jittering around. Well, that's a bit better. Well, the ball is staying put. Perhaps the less resistance given, the more tame the circuit is. I don't know. Your mileage may vary. Mine certainly did. The first game I'd like to look at is called Clowns. And this was a Bally Midway arcade game. I remember this from the mid-70s, maybe 77 or so. My father was part owner in an arcade. And on Saturdays, sometimes we'd get to go down there and grab a roll of quarters and have at it. And I remember playing Clowns in the arcade. One of the reasons why I wanted to build the paddle in the first place was to play that game.
This is the machine I remember as a kid. If you look really closely, take a look at that screen, the VIC-20 version is almost identical. Now, this is what Commodore sold, and in my opinion, this is one of the creepiest game boxes I've ever seen. I remember seeing this like in Kmart or maybe it was Sears, and I just thought, no, that's not for me.
Okay, let's get the game running. Never played it with paddles before. Let's see what happens. Okay, 5 jumps per player. Number of players. The notorious jitter from Commodore paddles. Doesn't seem to affect the gameplay much. Oh yeah, rack it up, boy. Well, there you have it. We'll phase this out. Now we'll take a look at Pong. This was done in the, mid-aughts by a couple of fellas from the Denial group, Nipper72 and NBLA 000, and it is a very faithful recreation of Pong. One thing about playing against yourself is you're not going to lose. All right, let's get serious here. I got to get this thing out of the shot. Although that may not help me. Now, there's like no jitter as I move this. These fellas solved the jitter problem. This is a machine language program, and you can take a look at Nino's code. It's still available on his website. And now, just to say that we did it. It doesn't list a file name because I brought this over from WaveProg. Pulled this file off the internet. A VIC-20 program. Transferred it onto cassette using Audacity. And now it's loading from the dataset. All right, we got two readies because the first one was the fast loader. And then finishing up our program. Here we go. Still got a little jitter here, but quite playable. One of the best breakout games I have ever seen for the VIC-20. Spare you the rest of my awful gameplay. Well, thanks for watching the 6502 show. I had a great time building the paddle and learned a few things along the way. I learned that I need to follow my own diagrams a little more closely. But beyond that, having a paddle has opened up about another dozen new games that I can play on my VIC-20. Hope you enjoyed yourself, had a good time, and if you did, please like this video, and you can subscribe to get up to date on all the new stuff that's coming out through the rest of the year. So until we see each other again, take care.